Welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage. Today I'll show how to reupholster your vehicle's seats to get them looking like new and feeling like new. First, I'll show how to disassemble this seat and remove the factory covers. Next, I'll show how to add some 1-inch high-density foam on top of the 40-year-old factory foam to make this seat feel more comfortable. And last, I'll show how to install the new covers and put everything back together. These are 40-year-old seats from my 1985 4Runner. Not only is there plenty of cosmetic wear on the vinyl and fabric, but the foam inside the seat has damage and deterioration as well. These covers are from North Shore Toyota products. I'll put their link in the description, and I'll tell you more about these in a little bit when it's time to install them. First, I need to remove the old covers. Here's a look at the tools I'll be using to replace the covers. All pretty standard tools here. I'll need a heavy-duty pair of wire cutters to cut all the old hog rings. These are the hog ring pliers. I picked these up for about 16 bucks on Amazon. I'll put a link to these in the description. It also came with this bag of hog rings. These are 3/4 inch. There's different sizes available, but 3/4 inch is what the job calls for. And this is 1-inch high-density foam. I use this to put on top of the old flattened factory foam to make the seats feel like new. I got this from Jo-Ann Fabrics with a coupon. Spent just over 40 bucks. Later I found some for half that on Amazon. I'll put links to both. Some scissors, measuring tape, and this is the glue to apply the new foam over the factory foam. It's Super 77. I'll give you a link to that as well. First I need to disassemble the seat. There's 40 years of everything. Before I go any further, it's a good idea to document how everything is from the factory. We've got a hog ring here, 1, 2, 3 on this side, 1, 2, 3 down the front. They're on both front corners as well. And 1, 2, 3 on the other side. All the springs and wires are intact, so I don't need to replace any of those. I need to remove the 12mm bolts that hold on the lower cushion. There's 2 on each side of the seat. Now the cushion comes right out. Set this aside, get this out of the way. Start by flipping this guy over. The hell's that from? There was a peach pit in here. I need to cut all these hog rings. Just like that. Even though they're cut, a piece still hangs on sometimes. Notice on the back edge, there's 1, 2, 3 more under here. Just got to start snipping these all the way around the perimeter. Now I can peel this old crusty cover back. And there's 2 more. 1 here and 1 here. There's a thick metal wire, sort of like infused in this molded foam. This keeps the cover tight. And then inside the cover, there's this fabric loop with a thick metal wire. And the hog ring wraps around both wires to hold them together. But that's the last thing holding this old cover on here. So I have this huge gouge here. That's weird. And this big chunk missing over here on the outer bolster. I have some scraps of foam left over from the first seat I reupholstered. Clean this off a little bit. By the way, the foam isn't attached to the base. It just kind of sits on top of it. So let's fill this gouge. This takes some extra time, but it's pretty simple. I'm pretty much just creating the missing piece in the original factory foam out of a new piece of the 1-inch high density foam. And as you can see, the best part is that it doesn't need to be an exact fit, just sort of close. So here's my repair piece. It's not an exact match, but it's close enough. And over on this really bad area, I have this to fill the void. And then I'll squeeze another piece or two in that gap. And all this is going to be covered with another layer of this anyways, so any minor imperfections aren't going to matter. Time for Super 77 and ventilated area, folks. I don't care about spraying outside my repair area too much because I'm going to end up spraying the whole surface anyways. Give it some pressure. Here we go. Just kind of build this up a little. This driver's side bolster was the only really bad area of the foam as far as wear goes. I think that's going to be the case with any old seat. Put a little weight on there now. I'll come back to this in 10 or 15 minutes. Nice and dry. I'll make this section first. 12, 12 and a half, 12, 12. My rudimentary straight edge. Looks good. Get this out of here for now. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this. It's not exact science. Plus, the new covers have a thin layer of built-in foam as well. I might have a little extra on the front edge, but I'll cut that off later if I need to. Make sure to leave a gap between these two so I can reach that metal wire with the hog rings later. And for the side bolsters, it's going to be easier if I start with a straight edge on the foam. Straight enough. Again, don't get OCD on this. Add a little extra if you're not too sure. I can always trim it more if I need to. Yeah, that's decent. Now I can use this side as a template and flip it to make an exact opposite for the other bolster. Okay, I'm happy with all this. Time for Super 77. Once it's positioned exactly how I want it to be, go ahead and press it down. Uh-oh. I've had this can for years, and it's getting kind of low. Might need to hold it upright to keep it spraying. There we go. And spray a little on this front edge. Help it wrap around that curve better. I'll spray these on some cardboard. Any overspray is pretty sticky stuff. When I'm done spraying this stuff, I always turn the can upside down and spray until just air comes out. And that cleans out the nozzle. Here's how it looks. I'll let it dry for like 15 minutes. And again, make sure to leave a gap here, or you might not have a fun time putting the new cover on. Set this aside for now. Now it's time for the new covers from NorthshoreToyotaProducts.com. The quality of these is great. I'd guess they were NOS OEM covers if I didn't know better. Here, take a close look at the detail of the fabric. These are patterned from OEM 4Runner seats. These are for the base model seats, but they also have the SR5 Vertigo covers. And they're made right here in the USA. There's integrated padding on the back of all the cloth surfaces. Perfect for a budget restoration because I'm saving a lot of money by doing this job myself. Getting back to the base here, there are some things I need to transfer over from the original cover. There's a wire inside here that goes all the way around the perimeter of the cover. Some of these half-cut hog rings are kind of keeping the wire from sliding out. They twist right out with some needle nose pliers. Now, I can slide this out. One more hog ring. Sometimes it gets a little stuck. There's a loop on each end so it can get hung up on things. Like any hole that's in the vinyl from where the hog rings were. And there's that one. I've got another one in this fabric sleeve here. Again, the hooked end is getting caught. And I've got one more down here. Get these hog rings out of the way. And done with that. Notice one of these is thicker than the other. The thick one goes through the back of the fabric here, and the thin one goes through the bottom of the cover. Actually, I'll do the long one first. Much easier to install it than to remove it. Now, it's only up to here, so I've got a ways to go. It's right here. I want to go to here. A little more to go. The goal is to get it centered. That's good. And the thick one's gonna go in here. And the thin one down here at the bottom. Get in there. And again, just make sure it's centered in the sleeve. Notice the center line on here. There's also a little center notch right here. I want to align this line with this crease in the center of the foam. I'm going to continue that line up here on the new foam. Let's find the center of this. And the center here. That doesn't look good. Alright, start on the bottom. I've got a center line here in the middle. We'll just carry that on up. And keep it going onto the new foam. Alright, that's better. Now just put the whole cushion inside of the new cover. Making sure everything is centered is really important, or else the new cover might end up lopsided. Not the end of the world. I just have to take it back off, go back to this step, and try again. Now remember that thick wire? I need to hog ring that to the one in the foam here. I mean, it's going to be kind of a tight fit, but this isn't even close. Alright, I pulled the cover back off. I'm pretty sure it's not fitting because I've got too much overhang here. So let's trim this guy down and see if that helps. Yeah, that seems to be fitting a little better now. So now the fitment is better. Pull this back, and here's that wire. It still has a ways to go, but it's supposed to fit kind of tight. So you kind of have to use your body weight to compress the foam. Perfect. Load this guy up. Now, the part where 3 hands would be nice. I gotta try to get those wires close together and get both wires clamped in the hog ring. Got it. And I think this is the hardest part of the whole install because it's so tight and there's not a lot of room to work. So hold those wires close together. I like to turn these a little just to make sure they're good. Yep, got it. Here's a close look at what those look like. Good news is that it only gets easier from here. So next, just take the rest of the cover and put it over the foam. These wrinkles will come out. Just kind of pull this up. Here's that center notch, perfectly centered. Just make sure everything's even on both sides. Now I can put the, this way. The metal frame back in. It kind of fits nice and snug within the foam. And the new cover will wrap up around it. Grab some hog rings and always start top center. And be sure the hog ring goes around that wire in the sleeve. And I like to flip this down so it's flat. If I'm ever reaching under the seat, I don't want to scratch the top of my hand on that. And next comes the center on the back edge. And you should have to use the old elbow grease to pull these together with all the new foam. So I'm pushing on that wire with my thumb. And the hog ring goes around the wire and the frame. Now, let's flip her over. Make sure everything looks good. Even and straight. I'm happy with this. This corner needs to go over the frame here. Same here. Now just put the hog rings on the rest of the way around. Starting with the top. Next along the bottom. I've got 1, 2. I don't know why this thing's so off center. I feel like it should be in the middle. This ancient looking rope thing. Oh, I actually missed that one. If you look close up, it went through the fabric, but the wire is actually outside the hog ring. So all that pressure is just on the fabric. So just snip it, pull it out, and try again. Got to get that hog ring around the wire and through the frame. Moving on to the side. 1, 2, 3. And start in the middle. And same on the opposite side. Quick check. Looks good. Oh yeah, don't forget about these corners here. And the other front corner. This one's got some tension on it. The wire's barely long enough. it was really important to make sure that that wire was positioned evenly inside of the sleeve, or else one of these sides might be too short and there'd be no wire to clip onto. I mean, this is just long enough. I'm not exactly sure what to do with this extra vinyl here. Let's see how Toyota did it. So they had a piece of vinyl here, and these have cloth. Not that you'll ever notice when the seat's installed. And this hog ring's actually gonna have to go through that little hook loop at the end of the wire. Not much room for error on these last ones here. And I've got just enough for this side. So now these two things will just run under here, and I'll clip them to this wire here. Yeah, that'll work. I'm not sweating over these too much since there's not even any pressure or tension on these hog rings. Hopefully this is the right way. If not, nobody's ever gonna know. Except for like 1,000 people who watched this video. This feels real nice. Firm. It's so soft too. Now for the top half. Let's do it this way. Exact same as before. Cut all these. And remove all the pieces. I think the top is actually easier. The cushion stays on the frame, and I just need to roll it up like this. Just go side to side until it stops right about here. I've got some hog rings here to cut. Now flip it over, and deja vu. Exact same as the bottom cushion. These two metal wires being held together. Missed that one? There we go. I'll need to reuse that wire too. Now it's time to remove these two little plastic clips for the headrest. So go around inside the seat here, and you can see the bottom there. It's hard to show, but I have to squeeze those clips together and push it through. There it is. And there's the other one. Now I can just pull these right out. There it is. This one's fighting me a little bit. There we go. The cloth was just really tight around it. I should document this. The one with the button goes on the outside of the driver's seat, and the button also faces to the outside. And now this comes all the way off. We've got a metal wire to pull from the back side, and a metal wire to pull from the front side, eventually. And there's another one in the bottom here. It's a skinny one. So the bottom one's thin, the others are thick. And flip it over, and there's another thin one here on the bottom of the back side. And it is the same length as the back one. And I'm all done with this. Looks like I've got a little bit of wear here on the bolster. Everything else looks good. Time for foam. This is the exact same procedure as it was for the lower cushion, so I'll speed through this. So I was thinking those original upper covers weren't horrible. If anybody's seats have that same cloth pattern and you need upper covers, you can have them. Just pay for shipping. I'll get some photos up and add them to my store of used OEM parts. There's a link in the description, and I've got all kinds of parts on there from like 10 years of hoarding 80s Toyotas. And it also helps support the channel because this is my full-time gig now. So if you can, like, and even consider subscribing. That'd be helpful too. Thanks, and I appreciate you all for watching. The Super 77 is all dry now, and I need to turn this inside out. Notice they put a center line right here for me. So now I need to mark the center on the foam. And there's an indication in the factory foam all throughout here. So I can just look at that and mark my new foam. No need to measure anything. Now just connect these marks. Oh, that's a good line right there. And carry it on down here. Okay, inserting the wires. There's the front and the back. Just make sure that's kind of centered in there. We've moved to the floor for this part. This is actually pretty easy. Just set the cover on top. Make sure the lines are exactly centered. I have one hand inside the cover here, holding it in place on the top. Then the other hand goes in. So one hand on each side. And press down. And it rolls right on. But stop before halfway because I have these wires to connect. Also a good time to do any adjustments. Like I'm going to move this a little to my right. Now it's lined up perfect. Now everything is going on straight. Time to stop and put on the hog rings. I'm doing the back first because it's a little higher up on the seat. And this one will be easy. 1, 2, 3. And now the front. Not too bad. So again, I have these wires on the ends that I need to tie together. So I need to squeeze these two together like that and hog ring them with the other hand. And same over here. That was pretty easy. Moving on. Put a hand on each side and just push on down. This looks really good. Fresh seats make a huge improvement in the value of an old vehicle. I know when I'm looking at buying one of these classic Toyotas, I have 4 things on the checklist. 1, how rusty is the body and the floors? Because that's a ton of work. 2, how rusty is the frame? Because here in Ohio, it's usually toast. 3, how's the drivetrain? Well, this one's knocking pretty bad. And swapping engines isn't really a big deal. I can do it in a couple days if I wanted to. It's a good chance to freshen up some things while it's out. Just check again to make sure everything's centered. And number 4, nice interior parts can be hard to find. And ripped up seats used to worry me because nice ones are hard to find. And they're a fortune to ship. I'm not sure what to do with this. I guess I'll just tuck that guy in here. But yeah, ripped up seats is a turnoff for a lot of buyers. And now that's no longer a problem, thanks to these covers from North Shore Toyota Products. I'll put a link to their website in the description. I actually talked to the owner, Tom, because if I can find a set of the rear split seats with the headrests, I want to have matching covers made so they'll match these front seats. And he said he could do that if I mailed him the original covers to use as templates. But he also said that he's going to start selling his products on preserverad.com. And it's more than just seat covers. He makes bikini tops for first-gen 4Runners, padded roll bar covers that look just like OEM, roll bar storage bags. He's also big into these 4Runners, and he makes all this right here in the US. So check it out. And there we go. Almost done. I need to cut some holes in this vinyl for the mounting bolts. I can feel the indentation where the hole is. And there's 2 on each side for those 12mm bolts. And one more thing is the holes for the headrest. Do this step very carefully because you can't feel where the holes should go through the new covers. So really get an idea of where these should go first. I brought the other seat over for a side-by-side comparison. So I measured out right about here. If you're a little bit off, there's some room for error. But I also have a whole video invested in this seat. So measure twice, cut once. And I like to make just a tiny hole first. Just big enough to barely fit the posts into. Remember, there's also new foam built into the covers behind the cloth. So I need to make sure I cut through that. This X-Acto blade's about done, if I'm being honest. Just kind of feel around and find the hole, metal hole in the frame, and I'm not finding it. Might need to go over a little more. So there's frame. There's the hole. All right, so I'm in the ballpark. Now I need to enlarge these a little bit. I'm cutting in the shape of a plus here. And now, let's see here. This one goes here. Get in there. Button faces the outside. And I'm waiting for that click. I just need the right angle. Let's try this one. Just feeling around for the hole. A quick test fit wouldn't hurt. There it is. And that's locked in. I need to cut a little more on this edge. And locked in. Done. And the lower cushion goes back between the frame rails. And get the holes lined up. And thread in the 12mm bolts. Not tight though, keep them loose until all 4 are in. If they're not lining up quite right, I use a number 2 Phillips to help center them in the hole. I'm using the scissors here to lift this whole side up a little bit. And done. Now the plastic covers. Actually, I'm going to clean these up first. Now that the rest of the seat is looking great. All right. That's looking better. Big screw here. And a big screw here. And the little guy goes up in here. And then the handle cover. And same for the other cover. And here is the final result. These things look mint. A couple little wrinkles, but those should work themselves out once the seats get some use. I can't get over the quality of this material. It almost has that, not suede, but I guess velour might be the word, where the light reflects differently depending on the direction you run your hand over the fabric. Just like car seats were back in the 80s. Totally period correct. Even the backs look great. Oh, so much more comfortable than those old worn out seats. Oh man, so soft, and then that extra foam makes a huge difference. Well, let's go see how they look in the 4Runner. I'm absolutely happy with these seats. That's one big thing crossed off on the to-do list on this truck. And there's plenty left to go. Now that the weather's back up into the double digits, I can get back to work on these rear quarters. Thanks for watching.